Hello there, I'm Lisa Lindfield. I'm a board-certified financial planner and CEO of Southern Pride Wealth and host of the Working Women's Wealth podcast, available on your favorite podcast or music app. This series on debt is here to help you rethink, reshape, and eliminate your debt. So far, we've discussed the total cost of debt, 5 ways to lower your debt, the most popular approaches to paying off your debt, debt counseling, and credit scores. But if we are ever to stay out of debt for good, we need to change the way we think about debt forever. Why? Well, because in life, our actions reflect our thinking. And if we want our actions to change, we need to change our thinking. When we look at what people are thinking when they get into debt, it comes down to 3 main reasons. I need, I want, and I deserve. So let's start with the first one. When something happens to you, and we all know that saying, life happens. In my experience, it most often happens in 3s or 4s and seldom in just little old ones. And when times are tough, I always stop myself and other people saying, nothing more can go wrong. It'll all get better from here on. Because in my experience, it seems that stuff just keeps coming. Financially, this happens too. You have unexpected medical expenses because your child falls out of a tree. The roof starts leaking and you lose your job or biggest client all within a month. These unexpected, unplanned for emergencies are what the I need hits. And for most of us, just keeping our head above water means that we need to go into debt in order to survive. So how do you minimize the impacts of these unplanned emergencies on your financial freedom? Well, you plan for them. And there are 4 main tools that you need to make sure are in place. Firstly, you need an emergency fund. You need to make sure that you have at least 3 months of expenses saved, and preferably 6 months. You need to make a promise to yourself. You never touch this unless something happens to you. I see people dipping into this emergency fund all the time because they haven't budgeted properly, just to then be hit by a real emergency, and they find that the fund is empty when they need it. The second thing you need is a medical aid. When our family is sick, there's nothing we won't do to help them out. So make sure you and your family have the right health insurance or medical aid in place. Or that you have another savings account that you put money aside each month for doctor's bills. Thirdly, car and home insurance. If you drive a car or own a house, you need to get insurance. It's money we hate to pay, but when we need it, it's so important to have. Life insurance. Many people, especially in South Africa, have heard of funeral insurance if or when someone in your family dies. This is so important to have, as I see the death of relatives as one of the more common emergency events that cause people to go into debt. However, it's not the only type of life insurance. You can also get disability insurance, which provides a monthly income in case you are no longer able to work due to sickness or accident. And you can get critical illness cover that will pay you if you get diseases such as cancer, stroke, or heart conditions that may have many additional expenses that come with that disease. Planning for the unplannable reduces the huge stress of these terrible situations. Usually when they happen, there is trauma, life disruption, as well as physical and emotional pain. But at least the immediate financial stress is lessened. The second reason is instant gratification. I want seems to get harder and harder in our connected, instant gratification world. Because in fact, it's turning from I want to I have to have it now. There are so many emotional drivers why we all have to have what we want now. We see everyone around us having something. We fear rejection of not fitting in if we don't have what they have. We value what will they think more than we value our own financial freedom. And we want our children to have a better life than we did. When I ask people when they will be able to start saving for retirement, their answer is always, when I earn more than I do now. The challenge with that is that it doesn't matter whether you earn 5,000 Rand, 10,000 Rand, or 100,000 Rand. It's the same problem and the same answer. You see, as humans, we're designed to want more, never satisfied with where we are. It's what leads to human progress, but it's also what leads to debt. The problem is, as we accumulate more things, we may look richer, but in fact we're becoming poorer because the lenders own what we show others, and the costs of our debt keep getting more and more. And we find ourselves not enjoying all these things we have as the stress of keeping up with the payments weighs heavier on us. The biggest way to make sure you stop this thinking is to be honest with yourself about the real reasons you're buying something and the good reasons you're getting it. Only when you really know the difference will you change your behavior. So ask this: what reasons am I making for having to buy this now or not getting something cheaper? Will these people I'm spending money trying to impress or fit in with be around to help me when I need it in 20 years' time? Is it more important to me that people think I have money or that I actually have enough for myself and my family until we retire? If there's something you want, you need to save for it, and you have to wait a few months for it. Isn't that better than buying it now and paying all those fees and interest that help the lender sit on the beach rather than you? So lastly, let's look at the slippery road of I deserve. In life, we all tend to confuse our rights, our needs, and our wants. We have the right to security, to privacy, and for our bodies not to be violated by another person. These all fall under the golden law of treat others the way you would like to be treated. Our needs are, in fact, also very basic. We need food to eat, but not necessarily takeaways that cost more. We need water to drink, but not necessarily a 2-liter of Coke. We need a car to get to work, but not necessarily a new one or a fancy one. We need a roof over our heads, but not necessarily the most expensive one in the most expensive suburb. I deserve happens when we confuse what others around us have and what we want with our needs and our rights. One of my I deserves I hear a lot is the one of, I work so hard, I deserve ... I've caught myself saying it too, so I do know this one very well. The problem comes down to one real fact no one can confuse. Money is finite. It's an either or. Either you spend it today on that thing you think you deserve, or you have it later on in life when you want to retire. But you can't have it now to spend on the new phone and later on. So when I hear the I work so hard I deserve statement, I always reply gently, but wouldn't it be a shame to get to your old age having worked so hard and continue to have to work so hard because you didn't save enough to be able to stop working? So debt often boils down to paying way more to have something that we want now. Paying a price that, if we knew the total amount that couch or dress or phone would actually cost us, labeled clearly on the item, we would never pay that much for that thing. So it requires us to change our thinking in 3 ways. Firstly, the why. Be real and honest about why we really are spending way more than it costs to have it now, and why we can't spend time saving for it. Secondly, the what. Be very aware about what debt actually costs, not only in rands and cents, but also in terms of what else you could be doing with that money, rather than paying for the lenders to have nice things. Thirdly, the how. Being mindful about how the money you're spending now can't be invested to make you money in the future. Most of us are not good at thinking about our future, and for many of us, if we're honest, we believe our kids will support us because we paid for them, or that somehow we'll get to saving later on and it'll be enough. The problem is both of those are dangerously faulty assumptions. I work a lot with adults who assumed their children would look after them, only to find their children have no work, no money, or die before them. And when it comes to money, let's look at simple maths. If you work from 20 to 60 years old for 40 years, and then live retired for another 40 years until you're 100, you would need to be saving half of what you earn every year to be able to stop work at 60. Because that first half saved would pay for the second half spent. So you can't wait until you're 50 and start saving then for only a few years and hope to have enough. You need to know why it's important that you don't waste your money paying for debt to buy the things you don't really need. It's important because every cent you save now becomes the ability to stop work later on and live the retirement you really deserve. So this week, challenge yourself on how you think about your money and the assumptions you're making about your long-term future and how you will pay for it. It's thinking well worth doing. I'm Lisa Linfield, and if you'd like to learn more, please go to my podcast, Working Women's Wealth, on your local podcast app. Take care and have a great week.